Askeladd is a hypocrite. He hates a person that has no moral values but is actually one of those person. But nevertheless, I love him as a character. But before we go further, first a disclaimer, this is just my opinion. I'm just another human being on this planet and I'm not claiming that everything I say is absolute. And second thing, if you haven't watched the anime yet and is planning to watch, this will be a huge spoiler, so it is preferable to watch first before watching this because I'm not gonna tell the whole story. This video is just gonna be about a character exploration. So yeah, that is all out of the way. I'm gonna continue on exploring Askeladd's character. There's no outright villain in the anime. The classic villain I'm talking about is someone who's out to harm the protagonist or the world with a bigger vision. Askeladd, being the leader of the Viking, was just doing Viking stuff, pillaging villages, robbing people, killing people for gold, etc. It was the norm back then. He was just a common Viking in that age, but he happens to be hired by someone to kill the protagonist's father. So, in the lens of the protagonist, Askeladd is the antagonist, of course. But for me as a viewer, he is just another dude in that world. But he is a complex character. He is smart and strong. In a lawless era where everyone is either hunter or prey, it is a real feat to gather lots of wild beasts and put the leash on them and use them effectively. And Askeladd holds the leash of 100 or more beasts. And so this in of itself shows how much capable of a leader he is. Yet, being a Viking in all of his life, he harbors great hatred towards them, and so also towards himself. He never explicitly said the reason of his hate, but he told a story about his father, and how his father is actually the first human he killed. His father was a Viking, he has no moral values, he takes on slaves and used them. He had lots of different child from different women, just like another Viking, of course. And Askeladd hated his father deeply, and he even called him quote unquote ugly. I don't think he meant physically ugly, but I think he was referring to the character. I think he defines ugly as someone who has no moral values. And so, despite his proclamation that he hates the Vikings and that he hates his comrades, yet he is like them. He is even their leader. He basically is the one that is telling them what to do, and I'm like, what? I just am so confused with his character. In my perspective as a viewer, I can say that he has lots of choices, but when we look closer, what the fuck do I know, right? Those times are fucking hard. It was just chaos. His life was really damn hard. He was a slave son. He and his mother slept on a barn, and his mother was sick and almost losing her grip on reality. And he was a child, maybe 6 to 7 years old. No matter the era, a child is a child. They aren't physiologically mature enough to handle the stress of life, and he was exposed firsthand of life suffering. A child needs love and support to develop well, and he had none of that. The only person who cared for him was his mother, but his mother was close to madness. And so this is why he valued the place Wales so much, because it is the home of his mother. He grew on to be a really tough man, both mentally and physically. He says that he don't really care about Thorfinn, but he trusts him to do the critical things to his plan. And he doesn't really look for Thorfinn, but when he sees Thorfinn, he lights up and all. But of course, Thorfinn just ignores him because he hates him at the core of his being. I really like the dynamic of their relationship. Thorfinn is really set in stone on killing him, but he was also the one who taught Thorfinn a lot of things, like a father figure almost. And Askeladd really cared about Thorfinn, and it's real tragic how they met in such circumstances. Well, Askeladd overall is still a bad model for children, but he still cares. I think he just lacked that needed love in critical years of his childhood, thus he grows up bent and warped. But towards the end of the season 1, Askeladd had some epiphany when he saw Prince Canute's face. It's like he suddenly remembered a forgotten dream. It wasn't his dream specifically, but the last words of his mother about serving a great king. And so after meeting the prince, something inside him is slowly changing, like a burned out furnace starting flickering. This was a huge turnaround for his character. He now starts to be committed at something, and that is serving the prince, to what he considered to be the rightful king. And as we all know, caring about something is dangerous, especially during those times. When one doesn't care about anything, one can live an easy life. And so when Askeladd starts to care about something, the stakes were now high. He cared about Wales, which is the home of his mother, and he cared about Prince Canute. And the king by coincidence found out about this and made Askeladd choose. And as we all know, he chose to trade his life instead, which at the time was the only option for him to save both Canute and the whales. He faked madness and killed the king. It made me think how caring about anything in the world of politics is really like handing a knife to one's enemy. It will be used against you. For me at least, that was one of the great scenes of the anime. It was the climax of the war arc and the end of the season 1, which is really satisfying on my part. Yeah, in the end, Askeladd died a rather well bargained death. I mean, he could have died a meaningless death in a battlefield or in a duel, but it was a good trade in his case. He chose to trade his life for what he cared, Canute and Wales, and so his death literally changed the course of the story. But I'm not gonna lie, I kinda wanted him alive. He's a very interesting character. Really such a shame. As for now, I'm close to finishing the manga, and it's really a great story overall. That's all I can tell you. No spoilers or anything. And season 2 is premiering now. Still watching it despite I already know the outcome of the story, because its relation is really different from manga. Experience is different. It's so immersive in the anime. Overall, I love Askeladd, and I can't really put his complex character into words. There's a lot of stuff I haven't fully deciphered in the depths of his complexity. And yeah, that's my take on his character. Overall, it's a great anime. It's a 10/10 for me. I highly recommend watching it if you like wars and all that stuff. It's almost like Berserk, but without the fantasy genre. Yeah, tell me about your thoughts about Askeladd and the anime. I would be glad to know. And lastly, I am creating a webcomic. The title is Land of the Gods. The genre is fantasy, action, romance, and the people there can control the elements. And it is basically about the young nobles, the young heirs of the kingdoms, coming of age, and the venture through the world of politics and magic. And yeah, I won't bore you with the details. If you're interested, check it out. The link is on the comment section. And yeah, thanks for sticking by this far. I really appreciate it. And have a good day in life in general. The world is beautiful and art is a blessing. Yeah, see you when I see you. Bye.